Okay. So I'm going to start right at the top. Can I move this? Can I take this? Can I use it for a second? I'm not playing the violin. No, I really can't. That'll hold me, right? Okay, good. So I want to start with the very first line of this song. I am unwritten. How many of you, hearing those words, can say you believe that about yourself? I am unwritten. Yes. But what about everything that's been written about you? What about all, who said that? What? So today, as I was driving over to Westlake, there was a traffic jam, which there never has been. And so I had all this time to think. And so I was like, okay, so I am unwritten. Do I really believe that? What does that mean? James Mellon is unwritten. What does that mean? Because I actually think about all the things that have been written about me, that I wrote about me, that I have all that's come prior to me. I think about, how many actors are here? Raise your hand. Okay, good. So, don't you remember every bad review that's ever been written about you? I know. You remember every bad review. I mean, I remember, and what?
Never got one.
Oh. I'll write one later. So, you're singing later, I'll do. So I mean, truthfully, I remember some of the good ones, and I could quote them to you, but by memory. But the bad ones, I still remember that day when I was doing Singing in the Rain, and I know I've told many of you this, but where I got phenomenal reviews, and then this one review came out, and actually I don't read reviews. I didn't read reviews back then. I knew not to read them until the show closed. Then I would read them like the show came down, I was in my dressing room reading them. But I was in the grocery store in Cleveland, Ohio. I was starring in Singing in the Rain, and I'm in the checkout, and I look over, and there's a huge picture of me with the rain, in the rain scene, and this review, and I was like, don't read it. They're going to say something that'll piss you off. Don't read it. And I'm like, you don't read reviews. And I read it. I bought it. I read it. And it was a great review. Loved the show, loved me in it, said, that my acting was amazing, that my singing voice was so beautiful, and that I danced as well as Gene Kelly sang. If only he sang better. And I was like, what? You're kidding me. Oh my God. Oh, I forgot to tell you the best part. So that night, actually, when I was in the show, you get all dressed up in white to go sing that song in the studio. And I'm standing there, my dresser's finishing the change. It was a quick change. She said, I think you dance much better than Gene Kelly sang. And I'm like, thanks. What did she just say to me? And I spent the entire number singing, you were meant for me. Really in my head, I'm going, what did that woman just say to me? What happened? So that's why I read the review that night, because I was standing there going, is that the one? Anyway, so see, I still remember that. It's like it was yesterday. So when we talk about I am unwritten, the problem is we have way too much in our head about who we are to really get what this concept means. This whole concept about being unwritten, this whole concept of allowing something to write me, allowing some surrender to something in me that is ready to actually take me to a much higher place. So that's the first lyric, I am unwritten. And then I love the lyric, today is where your book begins, the rest is unwritten. So I want to start with this quote by Ernest Holmes. He says this, and this is a quote I have never ever used, which is shocking after all these years to still find things from Ernest Holmes that you've never seen before. So he says this, life is a blackboard upon which we consciously or unconsciously write those messages which govern us. Let me do it again. Ready? Can you hear me in the back? Yes. Good. Because I can see you. So if you fall asleep, I will see you. Life is a blackboard upon which we consciously or unconsciously write those messages which govern us. And the real part of that I find the meat in is those messages which govern us. So there is stuff going on in you that is governing the way your life is unfolding. And it is what you write about yourself. It is the way you use your mind to literally navigate this thing called life. So one of the things I want to ask you to do is to really give some thought to, if you were really writing your story, what would it sound like? This whole month is about being consciously creative. How would you write about you? And are you willing to not? To let all that go? So this month is consciously creative. So Friday night, I went to see, thanks to Eric Overholzer, thank you, Eric, you're here somewhere right there, seeing Finding Neverland. Now, here's the thing. So how many of you have seen Finding Neverland? Okay, like 4 of you. I know you have. We cried all morning again. So here's the thing about Finding Neverland, talking about reviews and what's written and what's not written. Finding Neverland opened in New York to really kind of mediocre to bad reviews. They spent a fortune on it. And so watching it on the Tony Awards didn't look that great. I didn't even think then, watching it on the Tony Awards. So it was not a show that I was actually interested in seeing. I don't want to spend 4 hours of my life seeing a show that's mediocre. That was what was written about it. I didn't know the truth about it, but that was written. So that writing of that influences a lot of people. That writing influenced me to say, well, I'm not really interested in it. Until my son went to see it. What was that? Oh, where's my daughter? Like 2 weeks ago? 3 weeks ago? And came home and he was like, Dad, it is the best musical I've ever seen. Now, mind you, we paid like $1,000 a ticket to see Hamilton. And I was like, really, Will? Like, it's better than Hamilton? He said, Dad, it's better than Hamilton. I was like, you are kidding. Here's this contemporary kid. Hamilton was just amazing. But Finding Neverland, touched him in a place that he'd never been touched before, he said, by a musical. And then I'm in a practitioner class. Eric said he's got tickets to see Finding Neverland. I said, who's your date? He said, oh, I don't know yet. I said, you got one. So that's how he graciously invited me. So I got to go see, that's kind of how it happened, right? Yeah, it was. Or one of you might have gotten invited, who knew? So we go to see Finding Neverland, and I'm really interested. I'm like, this is interesting to have heard people's reactions to this. And I asked other people since then, when I knew I was going, and they're all like, you just have to see it to believe it. So we go, and we're sitting there, and it starts, and as soon as it started, something in me shifted. I mean, we didn't even look at each other we didn't even talk or comment, because I was transported to another world. And my whole body, I got goosebumps, and I just had this, you really understand that consciousness is something real. It's palpable, what you feel, what something does to you, how your mind interacts with images and singing and notes and just stories. So the play starts, and it's just this beautiful telling of how J.M. Barrie found the inspiration to write Peter Pan. How many of you saw the movie Finding Neverland? Right. I think the musical's even better for me. But so that's the story. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, J.M. Barrie, James Mellon Barrie. Because that's how my mind works. And I'm thinking, look how connected we are. We have the same. I wrote Peter Pan. Now I'd like the residuals. But I really did. I was thinking, wow, it's like, there is something that we're all connected, and how you go from, I don't want to see that show, to I am being transported here. And so watching this story, and I don't think I'm giving anything away, in the play, in the movie, J.M. Barrie is a famous playwright who is he's with a producer, and the producer's trying to get him to write a hit play, because if he doesn't, they're going bankrupt. And so he's writing this play, and he meets this beautiful girl in a park, and he says, and she loves his playwriting, and he says, I have a brand new play, and he starts to tell her what he's written, and everything he says, she says, oh, like in your other play. And he's like, no, this character's taller. And he just goes on. Everything she says, he's like, oh, like in that other play you wrote. Oh, like when you wrote this play. And he finally got it, and he went, oh my God, I am just regurgitating the past. I mean, I'm paraphrasing now. This is his subtext. I'm just regurgitating the past. I'm just doing again and again and again what at one point I was inspired to do. Anybody relate at times? At one point I was inspired to do something. Now I'm just doing it because I was inspired, and I think I should still be doing what inspired me before. And it's not working for him. And so there's a moment where he starts tearing up what he wrote into little pieces and throws it in the air. And this morning, as I was telling this, I suddenly understood the end of the play, how that also all came together, and I got even more verklempt. Got that now? See? You'll all have to go at some point. So he throws it all in the air, and what he's done, he has thrown everything he's written into the air and said, I'm done. I need to write something new. So one of the things I would like to suggest is that we all try that sometime soon. Maybe tonight when you go home. Write out your past. Write out who you think you are. Write out what you've written as your story so far. Tear it up, throw it in the air, and be willing to start over. How many of you would like to try that? And the rest of you? Kelly, she's like, I'm not messing up my house. I just moved in. Actually, you could, because you still have boxes everywhere. It's perfect. And you have a housekeeper. So I thought about this today as I was literally standing on stage. It came to me. I was like, oh my God, what a great idea. The metaphor of tearing up everything I thought I was, think I was, all the incidents, all the past, all the successes, the failures, doesn't matter what it is, tear it up. Because here's the deal. I could write the next part of my life based on everything I've done so far, logically, and it probably would be successful because I believe I am success. I know it'll be successful because that's who I am. But will it be my dharma? Will it be my passion? Will it be what I really want to be doing? I am one of those people who can do almost anything I decide to do. Why did I even say almost? Anything I decide to do, I can do it. Anybody else? You all are. Every one of us is. What we decide to do, we can do. One of the issues is my whole life has been, I can do anything. I can do anything. There's a lot of choices. Which one am I going to actually spend my time on? Now at the age of 62, I'm more in alignment with, okay, I know how long this is going to take. Do I want to take this time to do this? So what if you throw all that away and you just let something else inside of you live you? Because what I really understood watching Finding Neverland was that James Mellon Barry, he got out of the way. He literally got out of the way. And when he got out of the way, what started to really be amazing to him was just life. He met that family. He met they're not the Darlings, but he used that name. He met a little boy named Peter that he used as his prototype. He just started noticing it in life. And I think sometimes we're so busy writing our story based on the past that we get so caught up in the story, we're not noticing what's writing us. We're not noticing all the events and the things that happen in our life that writes us. I loved that I ended up on Friday night sitting in a theater watching this show that literally transported me all night. And I just sat there going, there's so much more that I want to be written, so much more that I want to allow write me. So Saturday night, I'm also sitting in a theater, in a high school theater, watching Secret Garden. Not one of the greatest musicals ever written for me, but a production of all 15, 16, 17-year-olds that my son is starring in. And there was a moment when he came on stage and he turned to the audience, and he looks enough like me now already, but in makeup, when he wears makeup like me, I heard it as I was saying it, but in makeup, when he was in makeup and he had his hair combed the way I used to comb my hair, he turned in profile, and I almost gasped, because I was like, oh my God, it's me. James Mellon, no. Will Rose Hines. Because let's face it, we're all one. We're all the same person. But no, I saw my son, and he turned and he started to sing, and I was literally catapulted back to, he's in his junior year, to my junior year, when I got to play the Artful Dodger in Oliver. And I had no idea what I was doing, but I just went out on stage and started, consider your, and I remember that feeling of something living me. I remember that feeling of stepping into a passion I didn't even know I had. And watching it just whisk me away. I was what, 15, 16 years old? And here I am at 62. I still do all this. I still love doing all of this. So the juxtaposition of J.M. Barrie and then Secret Gardening and watching my son really brought me to that understanding that there is something inside of me, there is something inside of you that is ready to write you if you're willing to be unwritten. If you're willing to not tell it what you should be. If you're willing to really step out of the way and let something in you literally write you. So Ernest Holmes also said this. He said, there is a tendency on the part of all of us to reproduce the accumulated subjective experiences of the human race. There is a tendency on the part of all of us to reproduce the accumulated subjective experiences of the human race. That means that there is a tendency for all of us to get caught up in race consciousness. To get caught up in race consciousness that's basically telling us what we should be, who we should be, where we are, how we should act. Not that it's all bad, but I think we let a lot of it just happen. And, this whole idea about being unwritten, what is it to be unwritten? What I really understood is that everything is already written. It's all written. There are no new ideas. There's nothing new for you to become. It's not that you have to go write it or even try to create it. It's all been done for us. We are undiscovered. That's who we are. We haven't really discovered everything, and we never will. To your dying breath, you will still be undiscovered. But how much of that undiscovered you discovered is really the life you're going to live. So what he's saying here is that there's this race consciousness that we really need to get out of the way of. We've got to step out of the way of everything that this universe has taught us up till now about who we should be or could be or might want to be, and literally drop in. Really drop in to something inside of you, something inside of me, something inside of us that knows how to write a really good Broadway musical called Your Life. Any of you walk around singing? Am I the only one? Yeah, I mean, we had friends. When Kevin and I first got together, two Broadway singers, we used to sing all the time, and we had this one friend, and every time he would see us, he'd go, Kevin and James! And I never knew what he was doing. And finally one day I said, why do you always do that? He goes, because the two of you are singing all the time. I was like, I guess we do. We still do, don't we? Okay, that's all. So what I have for you, the title of my talk, because now I'm going to start my talk. Could you imagine? That was my preface. No. I'm actually concluding. The title of my talk is Write It Bold. Write it bold. How many of you are bold people? Oh, really? You're all bold people, right? If you were bold, your arms would have gone up higher. So let's start again. How many of you are bold people? Okay, that was funny. He was like, you don't tell me. I do not bend to race consciousness. No, that was good. So write it bold. So there's many ways for you to write your life. There's many ways for you to let the universe write you. You can do it carefully. You can do it speculatively. You can do it cautiously. You can do it boldly. So I'm going to advocate some boldness. I'm going to advocate actually jumping in and letting it write you while you're in it, as opposed to staying outside of it and saying, let's see what comes up and I will decide which thing I'm going to want to do. Let me really use my mind to be of choice. I'm going to suggest that the real choice, the power of decision we have, is to jump in and to let it write us as it goes. That's kind of been the way I've done all of life. If my husband were here, he'd be applauding that I actually know that about me, because he's had to jump in with me many times when he wasn't prepared or ready or even knew what I was jumping into. To jump in and then allow it to live itself. When we opened this center 14 years ago, this center at the NoHo Arts Center, people forget that the Renegade Theater, we didn't own that theater at the time. It was a very dingy, dark, all the walls were painted like baby poop brown. It was really bad. I know, wasn't it? Yes. And so we went in and brought our consciousness to it. But it was bold because I had a board that every single one on that board said, this is not our space, let's not do it. And so, as opposed to Marcy said, what did you do, strong arm them? I was like, no. I said, okay. And we went and found another spot. So you may ask, how did we get there? Consciousness. No, because what happened was a week before we were supposed to open our service on Christmas Eve, 2004, or whenever it was, I think it was 2004, 2003, the woman who was running the dance studio said, you know what, I feel I don't want a church. And I hadn't signed the contract yet. And procrastination, I don't do that anymore. But it was perfectly unfolded. So I just said, all right, and I went back to the Renegade and I said, we do need you now. Could you still reconsider? So we ended up there. And when we walked in and we repainted the entranceway and we repainted the theater, right, Bob? We did all of it. We brought our consciousness to it. But that was jumping in and then seeing, all right, what do I do? There's something to not knowing. There's a great power to surrendering, to not having to know, but to literally take the plunge. So I'm going to invite you this month, as you are consciously creating your life, to be very conscious of what's going on in your life, to be really awake to your feelings, to be really awake to what you think about your life, to listen to your thinking. And yes, listen to what's coming in, but not with such attention. More like I'm understanding what I'm hearing, but stay focused on allowing something coming from within. Not this way, this way. Let something live you this month. Let yourself tear up everything you think you know, throw it in the air. There's such a beautiful moment when all the kids do this in the show. And it's just so beautiful. And it's tied to the ending of the play, which I want to tell you is one of, I'm not going to tell them. I want to tell them how I felt. No, don't do it. There's a beautiful moment at the ending of the play that literally transformed me. I mean, I was like, oh my God, how is this happening in front of my eyes? It was just, what?
I didn't expect it, it just happened.
No, yeah, unexpected. So, but it was written. Somebody wrote that on a page. Somebody wrote it down and said, here's what I want to see happen. And here's the thing about directors and writers. Being a writing director, I like to direct my own pieces. Most writers write it, and a director comes in and partners. So you don't have to know as a writer. I do love that. You just write it. You say, and then this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and it's the director that has to come in and say, how do you expect that to happen? I don't know. Figure it out. That's the life we get to live. Here's what I want to do. How is that going to happen? Like you said, oh my God. What makes me think I can do this? Well, because I know I'm God, so God, have at it. Figure it out. Because I'm here, use me, live through me, do what you want to do it through me. I know what's mine to do. Now I'm just going to let it be done through everything that I am. That's who we get to be this month. You ready to be that this month? Yeah. So go home, tear it up, throw it up in the air. The rest is unwritten. Namaste.